In what some of the media thought was a near done deal, turned out to have a little bit of a hiccup, and now fear is setting in into the markets and precious metals are affected. Let's explore! A little bit of a glitch in the markets with the gold and silver prices. In fact, as I record this video, silver is pretty much flatlined. No movement at all in price. However, it means that it's not going down any lower, and some people might call that a glitch. Same thing for gold. Gold is actually the only metal that's up today, but it's only up marginally, less than a percentage point. And why is this? Well, because a little bit of the news cycle was changing from what was being talked about over the weekend as a deal that has been reached by the Biden administration and by McCarthy. And it looks like that deal is now seeing some pushback by Republicans and even some Democrats as well. I'm reporting from an article here from Kitco that talks about how gold is gaining. And why is this? Because the dollar is weakening among some of the news that we're seeing today. Gold prices were up and supported by a weaker U.S. dollar index and a downtick in U.S. Treasury yields to start the U.S. trading week. The yellow metal hit a 9-week low overnight. Short covering in the futures markets and some bargain buying in the cash were also featured earlier in the day. But, this is something that does happen typically when the prices go up and there's a little bit of a profit taking, and then, they sell off and then the prices go down. But gold is still well under $22,000 per ounce as I record this video. These metal prices and the cycle just goes round and round, and sooner or later something's got to give. And typically when there's fear that sets in, the metals tend to push up and the dollar tends to go down, at least in terms of this type of fear. Now remember what happened in March of 2020 when fear gripped the markets. People ran to the safety of cash at that point in time. But now, with the prospects of more spending to the tune of $4 trillion more under this so-called deal, that leaves it pretty much open. And that means more inflation, that means more spending, and the dollar is going to lose its standing as the top notch, at least its strength, the dollar strength compared to other currencies out there. So what's happening to the dollar? The dollar strength is now affected, and if we look at the markets there for the dollar index, it is definitely down 0.23% to 104.07. That's still a strong dollar. I'd say anything over 100 is a pretty strong dollar, and we've seen it. I've not seen it go below 100 for quite some time now. And by the way, oil is down as well too to below $70 a barrel. But gold and silver are down. Gold is actually up today, and copper is actually up as well too, but only slightly. Silver, though, it's kind of hanging out there, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. So the metals markets are, for all intents and purposes, kind of glitching because we kind of expected that they would kind of take a step or two down in the prices, and I think they probably will continue on that path, as they work this thing out. The legislation, I think, is 99 pages, but there is some strong opposition against it by only a select few vocal voices. And I tell you, these voices I'm agreeing with. I think this is a bad deal. It's going to lead to more spending, more government outreach, and by the way, it preserves 90% of the IRS hires that are going to be coming on board, many of them agents. The IRS has pretty much already become weaponized, so watch out. And they're going to go after the middle and even lower class, which is unfortunate, but that typically, if you look at the history of the audits, it typically does happen more for those that are small business owners and those in the middle class, more so than the ultra-rich who have lawyers that can fight it. They go for the easy, low-hanging fruit in this case. They're like serpents going after us, it seems like, and it is an abysmal situation, and it's unfortunate. And I think there is an actual way that we can actually do away with the IRS if we implemented a national sales tax or consumption tax, something where taxes cannot be avoided, and you do it at the point of sale, and it all depends on what you buy. But the whole notion of an actual federal tax, by the way, is still a relatively new one. And some people feel we really shouldn't have any federal taxes. There's other ways to levy revenue using trade and other aspects and regards. But nonetheless, it all boils down to a tax in one form or another anyway. But it's just how you implement it. And I believe it'd be nice to get back to this system, but that's just unrealistic at this point. In fact, many people feel a national sales tax is unrealistic as well. But nonetheless, one thing is for sure, it's all about money to them, accumulating more of it, and for their coffers. And these nearly 85,000 agents now, according to the latest I've heard now, agents or employees. If you want to be critical about it, some people say it's not all just agents, it's hires in the IRS. But regardless, they will weaponize some of them. In fact, some of them are getting guns and the like, and why do they need guns? I just don't understand it. And bullets and ammunition. But they will be hired, and that will be something that is to increase revenue into the Treasury to pay for these big spending programs. But I think that even if you could accumulate and get all of the taxes that you want from the richest, the middle class, there's not enough money to pay for it. We got to go into deficit spending for what they want to do. And that's a sad reality. But, we have our own money that we have in terms of dollars, which is unsound. It's a hidden tax when we're plagued by inflation, which is where we are at now. Gold and silver, though, are a form of money, commodity money, that we have to preserve our purchasing power. This is why we accumulate them. The article continues here. Trader and investor attitudes are more upbeat on the week, and these leaders have agreed upon a deal, but there is some opposition that we're seeing now. The World Gold Council reported that a survey shows that 24% of central banks intend to increase their gold holdings in 2023, which is going to put pressure on demand for the metal, and it's going to probably be something that could lead for the prices of gold to go up. And the key outside markets see the dollar index down and a corrective pullback after hitting a 2-month high last week. And with these new hiccups in the talks, I don't know what other term to use. There is a cog in the wheel for the talks here to get this thing through. And I think the opposition is definitely a good thing, but it puts into doubt as to whether this thing can be done. Now, I can't say for certain if this is the actual case or what the veracity of this, but there are extraordinary measures that the Fed could be taking. One of them I've talked about. I've done several videos on the topic of $1 trillion coin, and from what I hear from a member of this community who supposedly works at the West Point Mint is that they are actually working on that. That's all I'll say about that. I've actually reached out to him to ask him to email me to talk about it. But I'm very curious to see what that is all about. So if that is really truly the case, that means they're not putting much hope of a political solution to this. If there's enough opposition, I don't think the opposition's there. Sadly, in order to stop this, I think this is just a glitch in the metals markets, and likely once they reach a deal, it will be bad news for us, and it'll be good news. It'll be bad news for us as a country, and in terms of our dollar, and in terms of our bottom line, and in terms of fiscal responsibility by government. It'll be good news, though, if you have the extra money to buy gold and silver, because prices will go down for gold and silver as they reach these deals, and a crisis averted. At least they think it's averted. It'll just be kick the can down the road yet again, as they always do, and that's what swamp creatures do. And so therefore, it provides good news and bad news. And the best thing for us to do is to protect and preserve our own wealth in these times, which we know are coming. We're going to be getting closer and closer to, really, in a sense, economic Armageddon if we're not careful and this thing continues at the pace it's going. There's only so much that we can take, even though we are the largest superpower in the world. how much more can they abuse the dollar and to where people lose confidence in it? Because once the world lose confidence in the dollar, and many nations in the world are trying to escape the dollar's dominance, and once they can successfully do so and use metals, especially like gold, to back up other currencies to compete with the dollar, and once they lose faith in it, then that dollar index, the DXY, will just fall even more. And it continues to fall. We're going to see the potentially some bad news here on hyperinflation or stagflation or a combination of both, which is very bad, which means you'll be very happy that you've accumulated your gold and silver. So a little bit of a glitch in the metals markets today. I would not read too much into these prices, especially going up. I think it's probably going to fall right back down again because more than likely, probably there's not enough opposition, is my guess, against this. And they'll be bullied into accepting this deal, which is a bad deal for us Americans here. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Hope you found this video insightful, informative, and educational. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.